The security footage was damning. There she was, Clara Bennett, the invisible assistant everyone forgot existed, standing alone in the marble lobby at 11 p.m., shouting at a Forbes magazine poster like it had personally wronged her. Then she did it. She actually kissed the damn thing. Full-on pressed her lips against the glossy face of Manhattan's most ruthless billionaire CEO. What the footage didn't show was Damian Vale himself standing in the shadows 20 feet away, watching every second. By morning, Clara expected a pink slip. What she got instead changed everything. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a struggling woman's mental breakdown in front of a poster became the most talked about romance in New York's business world. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The thing about working for a billionaire is that you become furniture. Expensive furniture, maybe, the kind that serves a purpose, but furniture nonetheless. Clara Bennett had accepted this reality exactly 2 years, 3 months, and 16 days ago when she'd signed her employment contract with Vale Industries. She'd counted every single day. Not because she hated the job. The job was fine. The salary was better than fine. It was the only thing keeping her mother's medical bills from completely drowning them both. No, Clara counted the days because working for Damian Vale was like trying to satisfy a ghost who occasionally materialized just to remind you that you'd never be good enough. These projections are unacceptable. Clara stood perfectly still in the corner of the glass-walled conference room, tablet clutched against her chest like a shield, while Damian Vale dismantled her work in front of the entire board of directors. His voice wasn't raised. It never was. That was the thing about real power. It didn't need volume. The Henderson merger requires precision, not guesswork dressed up as analysis. He didn't even look at her while he spoke. His ice-blue eyes stayed fixed on the presentation screen, one hand adjusting the platinum cufflink at his wrist. I expect a complete revision by morning. By morning. It was already 7 p.m. Yes, Mr. Vale. Clara's voice came out steady. She'd practiced that, the art of sounding professional while being publicly humiliated. 2 years was plenty of time to master it. Damian finally glanced in her direction, and for half a second something flickered across his face. Clara couldn't read it. She'd given up trying to read him months ago. The man was a locked vault wrapped in expensive Italian wool. That's all. He dismissed her with 2 words and a slight movement of his hand. Clara walked out of that conference room with her spine straight and her expression neutral, just like she always did. She made it all the way to the elevator before her hands started shaking. The Forbes magazine was waiting for her in the lobby. Clara had walked past that poster 1,000 times. Maybe more. It was impossible to miss. A floor-to-ceiling photograph of Damian Vale himself, shot in moody black and white, with the headline, Manhattan's Ice King, How Damian Vale Built a Billion-Dollar Empire While Raising a Daughter Alone. Tonight, she stopped in front of it. The lobby was empty. The night security guard was making his rounds on the upper floors. The cleaning crew wouldn't arrive for another hour. It was just Clara and the poster, and 2 years of swallowed frustration that suddenly felt like it might choke her. You know what? Clara said to the photograph. Her voice echoed in the marble space. You're an asshole. The poster didn't respond, obviously. Do you know how many hours I spent on those projections? 73. 73 hours, Damian. I barely slept. I missed my mom's doctor's appointment. I lived on coffee and those disgusting protein bars from the vending machine, and you just... She made a dismissive gesture with her hand, mimicking his earlier movement. That's all. She stepped closer to the poster. Damian's photographed face stared back at her with that same unreadable expression he wore in real life. Sharp jaw. Perfect cheekbones. Eyes that looked straight through you. You're impossible to please. You know that? Completely impossible. I could present you with the cure for death itself, and you'd probably say the font choice was unacceptable. Clara laughed, but it came out broken. And the worst part? The absolute worst part is that you don't even know I exist. Not really. I'm just the assistant. The one who brings you coffee at exactly 6 a.m. Black, no sugar. The one who keeps your schedule running like clockwork. The one who reorganized your entire filing system and saved the company $300,000 in the process. But did you notice? Did you ever say thank you? Her eyes were burning now. Clara blinked hard. No. Because Damien Vale doesn't notice people like me. Why would he? I'm not a supermodel. I'm not a socialite. I'm not whatever gorgeous widow he met at that charity gala last month. I'm just Clara. Boring, invisible Clara who wears the same 3 suits on rotation because she can't afford more. Clara who takes the subway while you have a driver. Clara who goes home to a studio apartment in Queens while you go back to your penthouse that probably has more square footage than my entire building. She was crying now, actually crying. 2 years of holding everything in, and it was all coming out in front of a poster in an empty lobby at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. And you want to know the most pathetic part? Clara's voice dropped to a whisper. I'm in love with you. How stupid is that? I'm in love with a man who doesn't know my favorite color, who probably couldn't tell you my middle name if his life depended on it, who looks at me and sees nothing but a function. She reached out and touched the poster, her fingers trembling against the glossy surface. But you're also brilliant, and when you smile, which is almost never, it's like the whole world lights up for just a second. And the way you are with your daughter, I've seen you on the phone with her. Your whole face changes. You become someone completely different, someone warm and real and actually human. Clara closed her eyes. I hate that I love you. I hate it so much. And then, because she'd already lost her mind anyway, because nothing about tonight could possibly get worse, because she was tired and broke and so desperately alone. Clara kissed the poster. She pressed her lips against Damien Vale's photographed mouth and felt the cool, glossy paper against her skin and thought, this is it. This is rock bottom. Tomorrow she'd laugh about this. Maybe. Probably not. But tomorrow was far away, and right now she just needed to pretend for 1 second that he was real and kissing her back, and that any of this mattered. Interesting feedback method, Clara. The voice came from behind her. Real. Actual. Not in her head. Claire's entire body went cold. She turned around very slowly, knowing exactly what she'd see, but praying she was wrong. She wasn't wrong. Damien Vale stood 15 feet away, briefcase in hand, coat draped over his arm, watching her with an expression she couldn't even begin to decipher. The lobby tilted. Clara's vision tunneled. The last thing she registered before everything went black was the sound of expensive shoes hitting marble very fast, and then she was falling. When Clara woke up, she was lying on the leather couch in Damien's office. His office. The inner sanctum. The place she'd only been inside maybe 20 times in 2 years, and never, ever alone. She sat up too fast and immediately regretted it. Her head spun. Easy. Damien's voice came from somewhere to her left. You hit the floor pretty hard. Clara turned her head, slowly this time, and found him sitting in one of the chairs near the window, still in his suit, tie loosened at the collar. He had a glass of what looked like whiskey in his hand. Reality crashed back in. The poster, the confession, the kiss. Oh, God. Clara covered her face with both hands. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll resign. Obviously, I'll resign. You don't need to fire me. I'll write the letter tonight and I'll be gone by... Why? Clara's hands dropped. What? Why would you resign? Damien took a sip of his whiskey, his eyes never leaving hers. You're the best assistant I've ever had. She blinked at him. I kissed your poster while confessing that I'm in love with you after calling you an asshole. You called me impossible to please. There's a difference. The corner of his mouth twitched. Was that almost a smile? And technically, you kissed a photograph. I'm not sure that counts as workplace harassment. Clara stared at him. You're not firing me. No. Why not? Damien set his glass down on the side table and leaned forward, elbows on his knees. How long have you worked for me, Clara? 2 years, 3 months, 16 days. Something flickered in his expression. You counted. I count everything. She didn't know why she admitted that. Maybe because she'd already humiliated herself so thoroughly that a little more honesty couldn't hurt. It helps. When things feel out of control. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I didn't know about your mother. Clara's breath caught. What? You mentioned missing her doctor's appointment in your speech. He said the word carefully, like he wasn't quite sure what to call her lobby breakdown. What's wrong with her? Stage 3 breast cancer. The words came out automatically. Claire had said them so many times they'd stopped feeling real. She's responding to treatment, but it's expensive, really expensive. Damien's jaw tightened. Why didn't you tell me? Why would I? Clara heard the edge in her own voice. You pay me to do a job, not to share my personal problems. I'm not a monster, Clara. I never said you were. You called me an asshole. You are an asshole. The words were out before Clara could stop them. She waited for him to explode, to tell her to get out, to prove that her job was over after all. Instead, Damien Vale laughed. It was a real laugh, not the polite chuckle he gave donors at charity events. It was surprised and genuine, and it completely transformed his face. For 3 seconds, he looked like someone Clara had never met, someone younger, someone who hadn't spent the last 5 years building walls so high nobody could see over them. Fair enough, he said when he stopped laughing. I probably am. Clara didn't know what to do with this version of him. The Damien Vale she knew didn't laugh at insults. He destroyed the people who delivered them. Your projections were excellent, by the way. She stared at him. Excuse me? The Henderson merger projections. They were thorough, accurate, and exactly what we needed. I was testing you. Testing me. Claire's voice was flat. The board has been pushing for me to hire a new VP of strategic analysis. I needed to see how you'd handle pressure. Damien picked up his whiskey again. You handled it perfectly, right up until you kissed my poster. I didn't. Clara stopped, started over. You humiliated me in front of 15 people as a test? Yes. That's insane. That's business. He met her eyes. And you passed. Clara stood up. Her legs were still shaky, but anger was a surprisingly good stabilizer. I don't want your VP position. Why not? Because I don't want to work for someone who thinks psychological warfare is an appropriate interview technique. She grabbed her bag from where someone, probably Damien, had set it on the floor. I'll send my resignation letter in the morning. Clara, thank you for catching me when I fainted. Good night, Mr. Vale. She made it all the way to the door before he spoke again. Your favorite color is blue. Clara's hand froze on the doorknob. Navy blue, specifically, Damien continued. You wear it at least twice a week. Your middle name is Rose after your grandmother. You take the 7 train every morning, and you're always exactly 17 minutes early. You reorganized the filing system in March, and yes, I noticed. You drink your coffee with cream, no sugar. You have a habit of tucking your hair behind your left ear when you're nervous. And when you think no one's looking, you doodle flowers in the margins of your notes. Clara turned around slowly. Damien was standing now, hands in his pockets, looking at her with an expression that was almost vulnerable. Almost. I notice you, Clara. I've always noticed you. The words hung in the air between them. Then why? Clara's voice cracked. She cleared her throat. Why do you treat me like I'm invisible? Because you're not invisible. That's the problem. Damien took a step toward her, just one. You're the first person I see every morning and the last person I talk to every night. You know my schedule better than I do. You remember my daughter's allergies. You fixed the Johnson account when everyone else said it was dead. You're brilliant and capable, and you work harder than anyone in this building. Another step. And if I treated you like anything other than my assistant, I'd want more. I'd want things I have no right to want. Things that would be completely inappropriate and probably illegal given that I'm your boss. Clara's heart was hammering so hard she could hear it. What kind of things? Damien stopped 3 feet away from her, close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his blue eyes, far enough that they weren't touching. The kind of things that start with me asking you to dinner and end with me kissing you for real instead of watching you kiss a poster. The air in the room felt thin. That would be inappropriate, Clara whispered. Extremely. And probably a violation of company policy. Definitely. So we shouldn't. We absolutely shouldn't. Damien's eyes dropped to her mouth for half a second, then back up. Which is why I'm going to stay over here and you're going to go home, and tomorrow we're going to pretend this conversation never happened. Clara nodded. She should leave. She should walk out that door right now and never look back. She didn't move. Unless, Damien said quietly. Unless what? Unless you don't want to pretend. The moment stretched between them like a wire pulled too tight, ready to snap. Claire's phone buzzed in her bag. Once, twice, 3 times. The sound shattered whatever spell had been holding them in place. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. 3 messages from her mother's nurse. Your mom's asking for you. Nothing urgent, just wanted to hear your voice. Call when you can. Reality crashed back in. Her mother. Her real life. The one that existed outside this impossible conversation with a man who could never be anything more than her boss. I have to go, Clara said. Damien nodded. Something in his expression shuttered closed again, the vulnerable moment disappearing like it had never existed. Of course. Clara walked to the door for the second time. This time she made it all the way through. The 7 train was nearly empty at midnight. Clara sat in a corner seat and stared at her reflection in the dark window, trying to make sense of the last hour of her life. I notice you. I've always noticed you. She pulled out her phone and called her mother. Clara Bear? Her mom's voice was tired but warm. You're up late. Work stuff. How are you feeling? Tired of being tired, but that's not new. Tell me something good. I need something good. Clara closed her eyes. My boss told me I did a good job today. Wasn't a lie. Not exactly. That's wonderful, honey. See? I told you he'd recognize your hard work eventually. If only her mother knew the half of it. They talked for 20 minutes about nothing. The new nurse, the terrible hospital food, the soap opera her mom was watching. Normal things. Safe things. Things that had nothing to do with billionaires or posters or confessions that could ruin everything. When Clara finally hung up, she had 2 new emails. The first was from HR, sent at 11:47 p.m. Ms. Bennett, you are hereby promoted to Vice President of Strategic Analysis, effective immediately. Salary and benefits package attached. Please schedule a meeting with Mr. Vale at your earliest convenience to discuss your new role. Congratulations. Clara read it 3 times. Then she opened the attached benefits package and nearly dropped her phone. The salary was triple what she currently made. The benefits included comprehensive health coverage with no deductible, the kind of coverage that would cover her mother's treatment completely. The second email was from Damien, sent at 11:52 p.m. Clara, the VP position is real and has nothing to do with tonight. You earned it. The board approved it 3 weeks ago. I was waiting for the right moment to tell you. I'm sorry that moment came after you kissed my poster. Take the position. Not for me. For you. DVPS. Your middle name is actually Rose Marie. I cheated and looked at your HR file. Clara laughed. It came out half sob, but it was a laugh. She typed and deleted 5 different responses before settling on, Mr. Vale, I accept the position. Thank you. CBPS. You're still an asshole. His response came 30 seconds later. Fair. Clara didn't sleep that night. She lay in her tiny studio apartment, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment, every word, every look. If I treated you like anything other than my assistant, I'd want more. But she wasn't his assistant anymore. She was the VP of Strategic Analysis, a completely different department, no longer in his direct chain of command, which meant no. She shut down that thought before it could fully form. Damien Vale was still a billionaire CEO. She was still a woman from Queens who shopped at Target and took the subway. The promotion didn't change the fundamental inequality between them. It didn't change the fact that men like him didn't end up with women like her. Except he'd been the one to say it. He'd been the one to admit he wanted more. Clara grabbed her phone and pulled up his Forbes article, the one they'd turned into that poster. She'd read it before, of course, when he'd first hired her. But she read it again now, looking for clues to the man who'd caught her when she fainted. Damien Vale built his empire from nothing. The son of a factory worker and a public school teacher, Vale put himself through NYT on scholarships and sheer determination. At 27, he launched his first startup from his studio apartment. At 29, he sold it for $40 million. At 30, he married tech investor Sarah Chen in a private ceremony. At 31, his daughter Emma was born. At 32, his wife died in a car accident, leaving him a widowed single father and the sole CEO of Vale Industries. I don't believe in work-life balance, Vale says when asked about raising a daughter alone while running a billion-dollar company. I believe in integration. Emma is my life. The company is my life. They're not separate things I balance. They're parts of the same whole. When asked if he plans to remarry, Vale's expression turns to ice. Next question. The article was 2 years old. Emma would be 7 now. Clara had never met her, but she'd spoken to her on the phone a dozen times when Emma called the office looking for her dad. She had a lisp and loved unicorns and always said, "Thank you, Miss Clara," before hanging up. The idea of Damien Vale as a father, not the CEO, not the billionaire, but a dad who probably helped with homework and attended school plays, made him seem almost human. Almost like someone she could actually know. Clara's phone buzzed with another email. 3:27 a.m. It was from Damien. No subject line, just 5 words. I can't stop thinking about this. Clara stared at the screen for a full minute. Then she typed back, "Me neither." 3 dots appeared immediately, disappeared, appeared again. This is a terrible idea, probably the worst idea I've ever had. And I once tried to launch a cryptocurrency backed by artisanal cheese. Clara laughed out loud in her dark apartment. That can't be real. It was 2011. Everyone was making bad decisions. Did it work? I lost $70,000 in 3 weeks. So no. Another pause. Then, Clara, yes? Are we really doing this? She knew what he was asking, not about emails at 3:30 in the morning. About everything, about crossing a line that once crossed couldn't be uncrossed. Clara thought about her mother, about medical bills, about the fact that this promotion meant she could finally breathe. She thought about everything she had to lose. Then she thought about the way Damien had looked at her in his office, like she was the only real thing in the room. I don't know. Are we? The response took longer this time. Long enough that Clara wondered if he'd changed his mind, if sanity had prevailed. Then her phone rang. "Don't accept this call if you're not sure," Damien said the second she picked up. No greeting, no small talk. "Because if you say yes, I'm going to ask you to have breakfast with me tomorrow. Today. In 5 hours. And I'm going to spend those 5 hours trying to figure out how to do this without destroying both our careers." Clara's heart was racing. What if there's no way to do it without destroying both our careers? Then we'll rebuild them. His voice was quiet, but certain. "I've started from nothing before. I can do it again." "That's insane." "Probably. We barely know each other." "Then let me fix that." A pause. "Please." Clara closed her eyes. Every logical part of her brain was screaming that this was a mistake, that billionaires didn't fall for their assistants, former assistants, in real life, that this was how people got hurt. But there was another part, the part that had loved him quietly for 2 years, that wanted to be brave just once. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." "Breakfast, 5 hours, but somewhere normal. No fancy restaurants where I'll need a translator for the menu." She could hear the smile in his voice. "There's a diner on 53rd that makes excellent pancakes." "You know a diner?" "I have a 7-year-old daughter. I know all the diners." "Right." Emma, the daughter, the whole other human being who would be affected by whatever this was. "Damien, I know," he said quietly. "Believe me, I know. Emma is my first priority. Always. Which is why we're going to take this slow. Figure out what this is before it becomes anything she needs to know about. And if it doesn't become anything, then at least we tried. At least we were brave enough to find out." Clara pulled her blanket tighter around herself. "The cheese cryptocurrency thing is still bothering me." He laughed. "It was called Cheddar Chain. The logo was a mouse." "Oh my God." "In my defense, I was 29 and thought I was smarter than I actually was. And now? Now I'm 32 and positive I'm not as smart as I thought I was at 29. A pause. Especially when it comes to noticing the things that actually matter. Clara's throat tightened. "Damien?" 5 hours, Clara. 53rd Street Diner. I'll be the one desperately trying not to screw this up. What if I desperately try not to screw it up too? Then maybe between us we'll get it half right. They stayed on the phone for another hour, talking about nothing and everything. Clara learned that Damien hated cilantro and loved terrible action movies and fell asleep reading science fiction novels to Emma every night. He learned that Clara had wanted to be an architect before her mother got sick, that she'd never been out of the country, that she was terrified of birds for no logical reason. When they finally hung up at 4:47 a.m., Clara was smiling. She had 13 minutes to panic before she needed to start getting ready. It was enough. The 53rd Street Diner was exactly the kind of place Clara would never have imagined Damien Vale eating. Cracked vinyl booths, a jukebox that probably hadn't worked since 1987, and a waitress who called everyone "hon" and looked like she'd cut you if you didn't leave a good tip. Damien was already there when Clara arrived, sitting in a corner booth, wearing jeans and a plain black t-shirt instead of his usual suit. He looked nervous. Damien Vale, Manhattan's Ice King, looked actually nervous. "You're early," Clara said, sliding into the booth across from him. "You're 17 minutes early," he countered. "So, technically, you're earlier." 17 minutes is my standard early." "I know," he smiled. "I timed my arrival accordingly." The waitress appeared with coffee and an expression that suggested she'd seen everything and judged most of it. "What'll it be?" "Pancakes," Clara said. "Same," Damien added. The waitress grunted and disappeared. They sat in silence for a moment. Not awkward exactly, but loaded with everything they hadn't said yet. "So," Clara finally said. "So," Damien echoed. "This is weird. Extremely weird. Good weird or bad weird?" He considered this. "I'll let you know after the pancakes." Clara laughed, and just like that, the tension broke. They talked while they ate. Real conversation, not the careful professional exchanges they'd perfected over 2 years. Damien told her about Emma's current obsession with marine biology and how their apartment was slowly filling with library books about octopi. Clara told him about her mother's terrible taste in daytime television and how she'd developed strong opinions about fictional characters' relationship choices. "Your mom sounds amazing," Damien said. "She is. You'd like her. She has no filter and exactly zero patience for bullshit." "Sounds like someone else I know." Clara raised an eyebrow. "I have plenty of patience for bullshit. I worked for you for 2 years." "Touché." The pancakes were exactly as excellent as promised. The coffee was terrible. It was perfect. When the check came, they both reached for it. "I've got it," Damien said. "No way, this is—" Clara paused. "Actually, I don't know what this is, but I'm buying my own pancakes." "Clara." "Damien." She met his eyes. "I need this to be equal, or as equal as it can be, which means I'm buying my own damn pancakes." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, but next time I'm buying." "Next time?" "There's going to be a next time, right?" Clara smiled. "Yeah, I think there is." They split the check and left the diner as the sun was fully up, Manhattan coming to life around them in all its chaotic glory. "I should go," Clara said, even though she didn't want to. "I have a meeting with HR about my new position, and you probably have actual CEO things to do." "Probably." Damien shoved his hands in his pockets. "Clara?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for taking a chance on this. On me. Thank you for catching me when I fainted. Thank you for calling me an asshole. I needed to hear it." They stood there on the sidewalk, two people who'd worked together for 2 years but were just starting to actually see each other, neither quite ready to walk away. Finally, Damien said, "I'll see you tomorrow? At work?" "At work," Clara confirmed, "where we'll be completely professional. Absolutely professional. This never happened." "What never happened?" Clara grinned. "Exactly." She turned to leave, then stopped, turned back. Before she could overthink it, she stood on her toes and kissed his cheek. "For the record," she said quietly, "kissing the real thing is much better than kissing a poster." She walked away before she could see his reaction, but she heard his laugh follow her down the street. It was the best sound she'd heard in years. The problem with secrets was that they had a weight to them. Clara felt it every time she walked into Vale Industries on Monday morning, past the poster that had started everything, through the lobby where she'd had her breakdown, into the elevator that took her to the executive floor where Damien's office sat like a fortress she was no longer allowed to breach. Except now she had her own office. 3 doors down from his, with actual windows and a door that closed and a nameplate that read, "Clara Bennett, VP of Strategic Analysis." It felt surreal, all of it. "Morning, Ms. Bennett." The receptionist smiled at her with something that looked almost like respect. That was new too. Morning, Kelly, and it's still just Clara. Not anymore, it's not. Kelly handed her a stack of folders. Your team briefing is at 9. Mr. Vale wants the Henderson analysis by Thursday, and you have about 600 emails from people who suddenly remember you exist. Clara winced. The promotion announcement had gone out Friday afternoon. She'd spent the entire weekend fielding congratulations messages from colleagues who'd never spoken to her before, and suspicious inquiries from the ones who had. The prevailing theory seemed to be that she'd slept her way to the top. If only they knew how far from the truth that was. She and Damien had been painfully, almost comically careful. One breakfast. That was it. No late-night calls, no secret meetings, no repeat of that moment in his office when the air between them had felt electric enough to start fires. They'd agreed. Slow, professional. Figure out what this was before it became anything. Turned out slow meant Clara spent most of her time wondering if she'd imagined the whole thing. She made it to her new office and closed the door, leaning against it for a moment. Through the windows, she could see Manhattan spread out below her like a promise. From up here, even Queens looked beautiful. Her phone buzzed. How's the view? Clara smiled despite herself. She typed back, better than the subway. That's a low bar. Fair. How's your morning? 3 conference calls and a board member who thinks blockchain is the answer to everything. Is it? No, not even cheese-based cryptocurrency? Especially not that. Claire was still smiling when someone knocked on her door. She shoved her phone in her pocket like a teenager hiding contraband. Come in. The door opened to reveal a woman in her mid-40s, wearing a designer suit and an expression that could cut glass. Clara recognized her immediately. Victoria Chen, VP of Operations, and according to office gossip, one of several women who'd been attempting to become the second Mrs. Vale for the past 3 years. Victoria, hi. Clara stood up, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. What can I do for you? I thought I'd welcome you to the executive floor. Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. It's quite a jump from assistant to VP. You must be very talented. There it was. The implication dressed up as a compliment. I work hard, Claire said evenly. Of course you do. I'm sure that's exactly why Damien promoted you. Victoria walked further into the office, her heels clicking on the hardwood. Though I have to admit the timing is interesting. How long have you two been sleeping together? Clara's face went hot. Excuse me? Oh, please. Everyone's thinking it. I'm just the only one with the spine to ask. Victoria examined her manicured nails. It's fine, really. Damien has a type. Young, grateful, easily impressed. You're not the first assistant he's taken under his wing. The words hit like a slap. Clara's hands clenched into fists at her sides. I earned this promotion, she said, her voice low and dangerous. I've spent 2 years reorganizing systems, fixing broken accounts, and working 80-hour weeks while people like you waltzed in at 10 and left at 4. So no, Victoria, I'm not sleeping with him. But even if I was, it wouldn't change the fact that I'm better at this job than you've ever been at yours. Victoria's expression turned to ice. Be careful, Clara. Women who get too comfortable in positions they don't deserve have a tendency to fall very hard when the CEO gets bored. She left before Clara could respond, the door clicking shut with quiet finality. Clara sat down hard in her chair, her hands shaking with anger and something else. Fear, maybe. Because what if Victoria was right? Not about Clara not deserving the promotion, but about the rest of it. What if she was just another in a long line of women who'd briefly caught Damien Vale's attention before he moved on to someone more suitable? Her phone buzzed again. You okay? I just passed Victoria in the hall and she looked homicidal. Clara stared at the message. She typed and deleted 3 different responses before settling on, she welcomed me to the executive floor. That bad? She thinks we're sleeping together. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. Finally, I'll talk to her. Don't. It'll make it worse. Clara, I mean it. I can handle Victoria Chen. Another long pause. Then, I know you can, but you shouldn't have to. Part of the job. No, it's not. Clara sighed and put her phone down. She had actual work to do. Real responsibilities that had nothing to do with Damien Vale or office politics or the weight of secrets that felt heavier by the minute. The Henderson merger analysis wasn't going to write itself. She lost herself in spreadsheets and market projections for the next 4 hours, only surfacing when her assistant, she had an assistant now, a sharp kid fresh out of Columbia named Marcus, knocked to tell her about the team briefing. The meeting went better than expected. Her new team was small but competent, and if they had opinions about her rapid promotion, they kept them professional. By the time everyone filed out, Clara actually felt like she might survive this. "Miss Bennett?" Marcus stuck his head back in. "Mr. Vale's assistant called. He wants to see you in his office." Clara's stomach flipped. "When?" "Now. If you're available." She was already standing. "Tell her I'm on my way." The walk to Damien's office felt longer than it should have. Clara passed the break room where 2 junior analysts went silent when they saw her. She passed the conference room where she'd been humiliated less than a week ago. She passed Victoria's office, where the door was firmly closed. Damien's assistant, a formidable woman named Patricia who'd been with him since the beginning, waved Clara through without comment. Damien was standing by his window when she entered, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city. He turned when he heard the door close. That was fast. "You're the CEO. When you say now, people generally interpret that as now." Clara stayed near the door, hyper-aware of the glass walls, the fact that anyone walking by could see them. "What's up?" "Close the blinds." Clara's eyebrows rose. "That's not going to help the rumors." "I don't care about the rumors." But he said it quietly, and Clara could see the tension in his shoulders. She closed the blinds anyway. The moment the last one clicked shut, Damien crossed to her in 3 strides and kissed her. It wasn't like the soft, tentative kiss she'd given him on the sidewalk outside the diner. This was urgent and a little desperate, his hands cupping her face like she might disappear if he let go. Clara kissed him back for exactly 3 seconds before her brain caught up with her body. She pulled away, breathing hard. "Damien, I know, I'm sorry, I just—" He raked a hand through his hair, destroying its usual perfect styling. "Victoria cornered me after her little visit to your office. She made it very clear that everyone thinks I promoted you because we're involved. We're not involved. Not really. One breakfast doesn't count as involved. I want to be." The words came out fierce. "I want to take you to dinner at a restaurant with tablecloths and wine that costs too much. I want to hold your hand in public. I want to stop pretending that breakfast was just breakfast when we both know it was the best morning I've had in 5 years." Clara's heart was hammering. "We agreed to take it slow." "Slow is killing me. Slow is smart." She took a step back, needing distance to think. "Damien, if we do this now, everyone will say Victoria was right. They'll say I slept my way into this position. Every decision I make, every project I lead, it'll all be tainted by the assumption that I'm only here because the CEO wants me in his bed." "I don't care what they think." "I do." Clara's voice cracked. "I care because I worked for this. I earned this, and I'm not going to let gossip take that away from me." Damien was quiet for a long moment, then, "What do you want to do?" "I want—" Clara stopped, started over. "I want to prove to everyone, including myself, that I deserve to be here. I want to run my department successfully for at least 6 months before we even think about going public with whatever this is." 6 months. Minimum. That's a long time, Clara. It's the smart play. You know it is. She met his eyes. Unless you can't wait that long. Unless this is just, Miss... Don't. Damien closed the distance between them again, but didn't touch her this time. "Don't assume you know what this is to me. You have no idea how long I've been trying not to want you. Then prove it. Wait for me. Let me build something here that's mine, separate from you. Let me earn the respect of this company on my own terms." Clara's voice dropped to a whisper. "Please." She watched emotions flicker across his face, frustration, understanding, something that looked like pride. "Okay," he said finally. 6 months. But Clara? Yeah? "I'm still going to want to kiss you every time you walk into a room. I'm just going to be better at hiding it." "Good, because I'm going to want to let you." She smiled, sad and hopeful at once. "We're adults. We can handle this." "Right, adults." Damien didn't sound convinced. Clara moved to the door, then paused with her hand on the handle. "For what it's worth, that breakfast was the best morning I've had in forever, too." She left before he could respond. before she could change her mind and throw all her good intentions out the window along with her career. The next 6 weeks were torture. Clara threw herself into work with an intensity that bordered on obsessive. She arrived before anyone else and left after everyone was gone. She took on the Henderson merger and 3 other major projects. She restructured her entire department's workflow and increased their output by 37%. She was exceptional. Everyone said so. And every single day she had to watch Damien Vale from a professional distance while pretending her heart didn't skip every time their eyes met across a conference table. They were so careful. Painfully, meticulously careful. No private meetings unless Patricia was present. No emails that couldn't be read aloud in court. No lingering glances that anyone could misinterpret. At night, though, they talked. Never calls. Too risky, too easy to get lost in his voice. But texts became their lifeline. Long, rambling conversations that started around 11 p.m. and stretched into the early morning hours. Damien told her about Emma's school play, about the frustration of balancing fatherhood with running a company. Clara told him about her mother's slow improvement, about her dreams of traveling to places she'd only seen in photographs. They talked about everything except the thing they both wanted most. It was sustainable for exactly 43 days. On day 44, everything changed. The charity gala invitation appeared on Clara's desk on a Tuesday morning, delivered by Patricia herself. "Mr. Vale thought you should have this," Patricia said, her expression carefully neutral. Clara opened the heavy cream envelope. The Riverside Foundation annual gala. Black tie. This Saturday at the plaza. "Why does he think I should have this?" "Because every VP is expected to attend. It's good for the company image." Patricia paused. "He also asked me to tell you that several major donors will be there who might be interested in discussing the Henderson merger. Networking opportunity." Translation: he wanted her there, but was giving her a professional reason to say yes. Clara looked up at Patricia, who'd worked for Damien long enough to know every one of his tells. "What do you think I should do?" "I think," Patricia said carefully, "that Mr. Vale has been different lately. Lighter. Like someone reminded him he's allowed to be happy." She met Clara's eyes. "I also think you're good at your job and deserve to be at that gala regardless of any other factors." "That's very diplomatic." "I've had a lot of practice." Patricia headed for the door, then turned back. "For what it's worth, Ms. Bennett, I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you, not even his late wife." She left before Clara could process that bombshell. Clara stared at the invitation for a long time. 6 months, she'd said. She'd made it through 6 weeks. Surely she could maintain professionalism at a public event. She texted Damien, "Got the invitation, and I'll go, for the networking." Of course. The networking. Damien, Clara. This doesn't change anything, I know, but they both knew that was a lie. Saturday arrived too fast and not fast enough. Clara spent an embarrassing amount of money on a dress she couldn't afford, navy blue because Damien had noticed it was her favorite, with a neckline that was professional but not entirely innocent. The plaza was exactly as overwhelming as she'd expected. Everywhere Clara looked, there were celebrities, politicians, old money, and new money all mixed together in a glittering display of wealth that made her studio apartment feel even smaller by comparison. She spotted Damien immediately. He stood near the bar, wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than her monthly rent, talking to a man Clara recognized as the governor. Even from across the room, he was magnetic. Then he saw her. The conversation with the governor continued, but Damien's eyes tracked Clara's movement through the crowd like he couldn't help himself. She felt the weight of his gaze like a physical thing. "Clara Bennett?" A voice beside her. She turned to find a man about her age, handsome in an easy, unthreatening way, holding 2 champagne flutes. "I'm James Morrison. I work in acquisitions at Preston Holdings. I've been reading your analysis on the Henderson merger. It's impressive." "Thank you." Clara accepted the champagne he offered, grateful for something to do with her hands. "I was hoping to pick your brain about your risk assessment model. Preston is considering a similar move and your approach is brilliant." He was charming, genuinely interested in her work, the kind of man Clara would have found attractive 6 months ago. Now, all she could think about was whether Damien was watching. She talked shop with James for 20 minutes, actually enjoying the conversation, until she felt a presence behind her. "Morrison." Damien's voice was perfectly polite, perfectly cold. "I didn't know Preston was invited." Mr. Vale. James smiled, oblivious to the tension. I'm here as a guest of the Riverside Foundation Board. Great event. Glad you're enjoying it. Damien's eyes flicked to Clara. Ms. Bennett, could I borrow you for a moment? There's someone who wants to discuss the Henderson timeline. It wasn't a request. Clara excused herself from James and followed Damien through the crowd, out of the main ballroom, down a corridor, into what appeared to be a private library. The moment the door closed, Damien turned to face her. Who was that? A colleague, James Morrison. He works in acquisitions. He was flirting with you. He was talking about risk assessment models. While looking at you like you were the only person in the room, Damien's jaw was tight. Did you like it? Clara stared at him. Are you serious right now? Extremely serious. Damien, you don't get to be jealous. We're not together. That was the rule. My rule. I know the rule. He moved closer. I've been following the rule for 6 weeks. 6 weeks of watching you be brilliant and capable and everything I've ever wanted while pretending you're just my VP of strategic analysis. I am just your VP of strategic analysis. You're a terrible liar, and you're being irrational. Clara set her champagne down on a side table with more force than necessary. This is exactly why we agreed to wait, because this, she gestured between them, makes everything complicated. It's already complicated. It's been complicated since the moment you kissed my poster. That was a mistake. No, it wasn't. Damien closed the remaining distance between them. The mistake was thinking we could ignore this, that 6 months or 6 years would make it any easier. Damien, dance with me. Clara blinked. What? There's a ballroom full of people out there. Dance with me, publicly. Let everyone see. That's insane. Probably. He held out his hand. But I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of pretending. And I'm really tired of watching other men make you smile when all I want is to be the one making you laugh. Clara looked at his outstretched hand. At his face, which was open and vulnerable in a way she'd never seen except in those late-night texts. At the door behind her that led back to safety and professionalism and all the rules that made sense. She took his hand. They walked back to the ballroom together, and Clara felt every eye turn toward them. Whispers followed in their wake like a wave. By the time they reached the dance floor, everyone was watching. Damien pulled her close, one hand at her waist, the other clasping hers. The band was playing something slow and romantic. Of course it was. Everyone's staring, Clara whispered. Let them. Victoria looks like she's about to have a stroke. Good. Clara laughed despite herself. You're terrible at this whole discretion thing. I'm a billionaire CEO. I've never had to be discreet about anything in my life. He spun her gently. Except you. And I'm not doing it anymore. What about my 6 months? What about them? I wanted to prove I earned my position. You have proved it. To everyone except yourself. Damien met her eyes. Clara, you're exceptional. You've always been exceptional. The promotion didn't make you good at your job. It just put you where you should have been all along. People will still talk. People always talk. Let them. His hand tightened at her waist. I've spent 5 years being careful, being appropriate, doing everything right. And you know what I learned? Perfect doesn't make you happy. It just makes you alone. The song was ending. Clara knew they should step apart, return to their respective corners, go back to pretending. She didn't move. What do you want, Damien? You. I want you. He said it simply, like it was the easiest truth in the world. I want to take you to dinner and argue about terrible movies. I want to meet your mother and let you meet Emma. I want to stop counting the days until I'm allowed to kiss you again. How many days has it been? 44, since my office. I've counted every single one. Claire's heart was hammering. Around them, couples were moving to the next song. The moment was stretching too long, becoming obvious. She should step away. She should be smart about this. Instead, she said, The answer is Rosemarie, by the way. Damien's brow furrowed. What? My middle name, the full answer. You only got it half right. She smiled. If you're going to notice things about me, notice them completely. He laughed, surprised and delighted. Rosemarie Bennett. Yes. That's beautiful. It's old-fashioned. I like old-fashioned. He was still holding her, even though the song had changed to something faster. Clara Rosemarie Bennett Would you let me take you to dinner? A real date, in public, where everyone can see. When? Tomorrow, tonight, right now, I don't care. Clara thought about all the reasons this was a bad idea. The gossip, the complications, the fact that she still wasn't sure a man like Damien Vale ended up with a woman like her in any version of reality that made sense. Then she thought about 44 days of wanting him, of late-night texts and stolen glances and the way her heart jumped every time she heard his voice. Tuesday, she said. Tuesday. I have a thing with my mom tomorrow. Monday, I'm presenting to the board. Tuesday is the first night I can do dinner without it interfering with work. Damien smiled. Okay, Tuesday. Where do you want to go? Somewhere without tablecloths. I'm not ready for tablecloths yet. The diner on 53rd? Perfect. They finally stepped apart, and Clara could feel the weight of every stare in the room. Victoria Chen looked apoplectic. James Morrison looked confused. Patricia, standing near the entrance, gave Clara a subtle thumbs up. I should probably go talk to the Henderson donors, Clara said, since that's technically why I'm here. Right. The networking. Damien's eyes were bright with something that looked like happiness. I'll see you Tuesday, then. Tuesday, Clara confirmed. She made it halfway across the ballroom before her phone buzzed. 45 days. She turned back. Damien was watching her from across the room, his phone in his hand. What? Until Tuesday. I'm counting this time too. Clara bit back a smile. You're ridiculous. You like it. Maybe. Definitely. She put her phone away and went to network with Henderson donors, very aware that her life had just tilted on its axis in a way that couldn't be undone. By Monday morning, the entire company knew. Clara's phone had 17 missed calls and 42 texts, most from people she barely knew, all wanting to know if the rumors were true. She ignored them all and focused on her board presentation. The Henderson merger was moving forward smoothly, her team was performing beautifully, and the numbers spoke for themselves. When she finished presenting, the board actually applauded. Excellent work, Miss Bennett, the chairman said. This is exactly the kind of strategic thinking we need more of. Clara thanked him and gathered her materials. As she left the conference room, she passed Damien in the hallway. He was talking to another board member, but his eyes found hers. She smiled. He smiled back. It was enough. For now, it was enough. Tuesday couldn't come fast enough. Tuesday arrived wearing the kind of gray October rain that made Manhattan look like a watercolor painting someone had left out in the weather. Clara spent the entire day distracted, missing points in meetings and having to ask people to repeat themselves. Marcus noticed but was kind enough not to comment. At 5:30, she texted Damien, "Still on for tonight?" His response came immediately. "I've been ready since 6 a.m. It's just dinner. It's our first real date. We had breakfast." That was reconnaissance. This is official. Clara smiled at her phone like an idiot. Across the office, she saw two junior analysts notice and exchange looks. She didn't care anymore. She left at 6, ignoring the pointed stares, and went home to change into jeans and a sweater that her mother had bought her last Christmas. Nothing fancy. The diner on 53rd didn't require fancy. Her phone rang while she was attempting to do something with her hair that didn't look like she'd been standing in the rain. "Hi, Mom. You sound weird. Why do you sound weird?" Clara laughed. "I don't sound weird." "You absolutely do. What's going on?" "I have a date." The line went silent for a beat. Then, "Clara Rosemarie Bennett, you have been holding out on me. Who is he?" "Someone from work." "The billionaire boss." Clara almost dropped her phone. "How did you—" "Honey, I'm stuck in bed watching daytime television. You think I don't Google you? There are pictures of you two dancing at some fancy gala all over the internet." Her mother's voice softened. "He looks at you like you hung the moon." "Mom, is he good to you?" Clara thought about late-night texts and the way Damien had caught her when she fainted and the 45 days he'd counted. "Yeah, he is." "Then go. Have your date. Be happy. You deserve to be happy, baby." They talked for a few more minutes before Clara hung up, her eyes suspiciously wet. She finished fighting with her hair, gave up, and pulled it back in a ponytail. Good enough. The diner was exactly how she remembered it. Cracked vinyl, terrible coffee, pancakes that could fix bad days. Damien was already in their corner booth, still in his work clothes but with his tie gone and his sleeves rolled up. He stood when she approached. Actual stood up like they were in some old movie. Hi. Hi. Clara slid into the booth across from him. You didn't have to stand. My mother would haunt me if I didn't. He sat back down, looking almost nervous. Damien Vale, Manhattan's Ice King, was nervous about a date at a diner. The same waitress from before appeared, looking unsurprised to see them. Back again. Apparently so, Damien said. Same order? Clara nodded. Pancakes sound perfect. The waitress grunted and disappeared, leaving them alone in their bubble of cracked vinyl and fluorescent lighting. So, Clara said. So, Damien echoed, just like last time. This is less weird than the first time. Is it? I feel like I might throw up. Clara laughed. You're a billionaire CEO. You negotiate million-dollar deals before breakfast. How is this making you nervous? Because those deals don't matter. He met her eyes. You matter. The words landed between them like something physical. Clara's throat tightened. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. I haven't dated anyone in 3 years. And even that was just some guy from my building who turned out to be married. I've been on exactly 2 dates since my wife died. Both were disasters orchestrated by well-meaning friends who thought I needed to get back out there. Damien grimaced. One woman spent the entire evening talking about her portfolio. The other asked if Emma came with a nanny because she wasn't the mothering type. That's horrible. It was clarifying, made it very clear what I wasn't looking for. He paused. Then you kissed my poster and everything got complicated. I'm still sorry about that. I'm not. The corner of his mouth lifted. Best thing that's happened to me in 5 years. The pancakes arrived, interrupting whatever Clara might have said to that. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes before Damien spoke again. Tell me something true. Something I don't know. Clara considered this. I wanted to be an architect. Before my mom got sick, I was 2 semesters away from my degree. I was going to design buildings that made people feel something, spaces that mattered. Why didn't you finish? Medical bills don't pay themselves. I needed a job that paid actual money, not an internship that might lead to something eventually. She took a bite of pancake. I don't regret it. My mom needed me. But sometimes I wonder what I gave up. Damien was quiet for a moment. You still design things. You designed the entire restructure of your department. The Henderson merger strategy is architecture, just with numbers instead of buildings. It's not the same. No, but it's still brilliant. He met her eyes, and nothing says you can't go back. Finish the degree. Design buildings that make people feel something. On what planet do I have time for that? On the planet where you're dating someone who owns a company and can make sure you have the flexibility to do both. Damien said it casually, like he was discussing the weather. If that's something you wanted. Clara stared at him. You can't just rearrange my career so I can pursue old dreams. Why not? Because that's not how the world works. It's how my world works. He reached across the table and took her hand. Clara, I have more money than I could spend in 5 lifetimes. What's the point of any of it if I can't use it to help the people I care about be happy? I don't want your money. I know, that's one of the things I love about you. He said it so simply, like he hadn't just used the word love for the first time. But wanting to help someone isn't the same as thinking they need rescuing. You're the most capable person I know. I'm just saying if there's something you want, I'd like to help you get it. Clara's eyes were burning. You can't just say things like that. Why not? Because I'm trying really hard not to fall completely in love with you, and you're making it very difficult. Damien's thumb traced circles on the back of her hand. What if I told you I stopped trying weeks ago? The air between them felt charged. Clara was suddenly very aware of his hand on hers, the way he was looking at her like she was the only real thing in the room. We're in public, she managed. I don't care. People will take pictures. Let them. He stood up, pulling her with him. Come on. Where are we going? You'll see. Damien left cash on the table and led her out of the diner into the October rain. It was coming down harder now, soaking through Clara's sweater in seconds. Damien, what? He kissed her. Not the desperate kiss from his office or the sweet kiss she'd given him on the sidewalk. This was something else entirely. This was a promise and a question and an answer all at once. Clara kissed him back, rain streaming down their faces. not caring that they were standing on a Manhattan sidewalk in the middle of a downpour. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Damien rested his forehead against hers. "I've wanted to do that for 45 days. "It was worth the wait," Clara whispered. "Come home with me." Clara pulled back. "Damien, not like that. I mean, eventually like that, but not tonight." He was talking fast, nervous again. "Emma's at a sleepover. The penthouse is empty. I just want more time with you. We can watch terrible movies and argue about them. That's all. I promise." Clara should say no. This was moving too fast, too intense. They'd barely started dating and he was already asking her to his home. "Okay," she heard herself say. They caught a cab because the rain made finding his driver impossible. Clara had never been in Damien's personal car, much less his home. The 15-minute ride felt simultaneously too long and not long enough. The penthouse was everything Clara expected and nothing like she'd imagined. Yes, it was huge and expensive with floor-to-ceiling windows that made Manhattan look like a toy city below them, but it was also lived in. There were Emma's drawings on the fridge, science textbooks scattered on the coffee table, a blanket fort in the corner of the living room that looked like it had been there for weeks. "Sorry about the mess," Damien said, suddenly self-conscious. "Emma's going through a fort-building phase and I can't bring myself to take it down." "It's perfect," Clara said, and meant it. They ended up on the couch with blankets and tea because coffee seemed too intense for 10 p.m. on a Tuesday. Damien scrolled through his streaming services until Clara stopped him on something ridiculous. "Sharknado? Really? You said terrible movies. This is objectively terrible. I was thinking more along the lines of bad rom-coms." "Where's the fun in that?" Clara grabbed the remote from him. "We're watching Sharknado." It was every bit as awful as promised. They made it 20 minutes before they were both laughing too hard to pay attention to the screen. "This is the worst thing I've ever seen," Damien said. "That shark just ate a helicopter. The physics don't even make sense. Nothing about this makes sense." "That's the point." Clara was curled against him now, though she wasn't sure when that had happened. It felt natural, easy, like they'd been doing this for years instead of hours. Damien's arm tightened around her. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "What happened?" 3 years ago. The guy who was married." Clara grimaced. "That's a mood killer." "You don't have to tell me." "No, it's fine. Just embarrassing." She pulled the blanket tighter. "His name was David. We lived in the same building, saw each other in the elevator every morning. He seemed nice, normal. Asked me to coffee, then dinner. We dated for 4 months before I found out he had a wife and 2 kids in Connecticut." "How did you find out?" "His wife showed up at my door. She'd hired a private investigator." Clara laughed, but it came out bitter. "Turns out, I was the 3rd woman she'd confronted that year. She wasn't even angry at me. Just tired." "What did you do?" "Ended it immediately. Apologized even though I didn't know. Spent the next 6 months convinced I was terrible at reading people." Clara looked up at him. "Then I spent 2 years working for you while secretly in love with you and convinced you'd never notice I existed. My track record with men is not great." "He was an idiot." "Which one? David? Or you?" "Both. Him for lying to you. Me for taking 2 years to notice the best thing that ever walked into my office." Damien tilted her chin up. "For the record, I noticed you the day you started. You were wearing a navy blue suit and you corrected my math on a merger projection. Nobody ever corrects me. I thought you were going to fire me. I wanted to promote you on the spot, but HR said it was too soon." He smiled. "So I waited and watched you be brilliant and tried very hard not to want you." "How'd that work out?" "Terribly. You kissed my poster and I was done for." Clara laughed and kissed him, soft and sweet. On the TV, sharks were still somehow flying through the air. Neither of them was watching anymore. They ended up talking until 2 in the morning, the movie long forgotten. Damien told her about Emma's obsession with octopi and how she wanted to be a marine biologist when she grew up. Clara told him about her mother's terrible soap opera addiction and the time she'd tried to set Clara up with their mail carrier. "She's going to love you," Clara said. "Your mom or Emma?" "Both. They're both forces of nature who know exactly what they want." Clara yawned. "What time is it?" "Late. Early. Depends on your perspective." Damien stood and pulled her up with him. "I should get you home." I can take the subway. Absolutely not. I'll have my driver take you. Damien, Clara. He cupped her face in his hands. Let me do this one small thing, please. She relented because arguing seemed pointless, and she was too tired to fight anyway. The driver appeared within minutes, professional and discreet. Damien walked her down to the car, kissed her goodnight in a way that made her toes curl, and waited until the car pulled away before heading back inside. Clara made it home at almost 3 a.m. and fell into bed with her clothes still on, a stupid smile on her face. Her phone buzzed. Thank you for tonight. Thank you for terrible movies and pancakes. Same time next week? Can't wait that long. Tomorrow then? I have that thing with my mom after work. Thursday? Thursday. I'll cook. You cook? I'm a single father. Of course I cook. This I have to see. You might regret that confidence. Clara fell asleep smiling, her phone still in her hand. The thing with her mother turned out to be bigger than Clara expected. She arrived at the hospital Wednesday evening for what she thought was a routine checkup and found her mom sitting in the oncologist's office looking scared. What's wrong? Clara's heart was in her throat. What happened? Sit down, honey. Dr. Martinez, who'd been treating her mother for the past year, gave Clara a kind smile. It's good news, actually. We got the latest scans back. The tumors are responding even better than we hoped. We're looking at remission. Clara sat down hard. Remission? Complete remission if the next round of treatment goes as planned. Dr. Martinez pulled up scans on his computer. She's doing remarkably well. Clara looked at her mother, who had tears streaming down her face. We're going to be okay, her mom whispered. Clara Bear, we're going to be okay. They cried together in that office for 10 minutes while Dr. Martinez politely pretended to review charts. When they finally composed themselves, he went over the treatment plan for the next 6 months. More chemo, but lighter doses. Regular monitoring, cautious optimism. Clara walked her mother to the car service she'd insisted on paying for now that she could actually afford it, then stood on the sidewalk trying to process the past hour. Her phone rang. Damien. Hi, she answered, her voice still shaky. What's wrong? How did you... I can hear it in your voice. What happened? Clara started crying again right there on Park Avenue while people rushed past her in their own worlds. My mom's going to be okay. The scans are good. She's going into remission. Clara, that's amazing. His voice was warm with relief. Why are you crying? Because I've been so scared for so long, and I didn't let myself believe it could actually be okay, and now it is, and I don't know what to do with that. Where are you? She told him. Stay there. I'm coming to get you. Damien, you don't have to... I know I don't have to. I want to. Please let me want to. He arrived 15 minutes later in his town car, probably breaking several traffic laws. Clara slid into the back seat, and he immediately pulled her into his arms. I'm getting your suit wet, she mumbled into his shoulder. I don't care. He held her tighter. Tell me everything. So she did. All of it. The fear of the past year, the medical bills that had consumed her life, the desperate hope she'd been too terrified to acknowledge. Damien listened and held her and didn't try to fix anything, just let her feel it all. Can I meet her? He asked when she finally stopped talking. Clara pulled back. My mom? Yeah. You've been dealing with this alone for so long. I'd like to meet the woman who raised someone as incredible as you. She's going to interrogate you. Good. I'd be disappointed if she didn't. Damien wiped tears off her face with his thumb. Unless you're not ready for that, we can wait. Clara thought about it. About her mother's question on the phone. Is he good to you? About the way Damien had just dropped everything to come sit with her on a sidewalk while she cried. Thursday, she said, after dinner, if the cooking doesn't poison me first. He laughed. I make a decent pasta. You'll survive. Thursday night, Clara showed up at Damien's penthouse with a bottle of wine she'd agonized over for 20 minutes at the store and a stomach full of butterflies. This felt different than Tuesday, more real somehow. Emma was still at her grandmother's for the week, so they had the place to themselves again. Damien answered the door in jeans and a t-shirt, barefoot, looking more relaxed than Clara had ever seen him. Hi, he said, and kissed her before she'd fully stepped inside. Hi yourself. Clara held up the wine. I brought this. I don't know if it's good. The guy at the store said it pairs well with pasta. It's perfect. He led her to the kitchen, which was somehow both enormous and cozy. How do you feel about helping? I have to actually focus to not burn things. They cooked together, which meant Clara chopped vegetables while Damien handled the more complicated parts, and they argued about whether garlic counted as a vegetable. The pasta turned out surprisingly good. The wine was better than Clara expected, and they ate at the kitchen island instead of the formal dining room because that felt more like them. I have to ask, Clara said between bites, how does a billionaire CEO learn to cook? Emma wouldn't eat anything when my wife first died. She was 3 and confused, and the nanny kept making things she didn't recognize. Damien refilled their wine glasses. So I learned, started simple. Pasta, grilled cheese, scrambled eggs, eventually got better at it. Now it's one of my favorite things. Just me and her making a mess, pretending the rest of the world doesn't exist for an hour. You're a good dad. I try. Some days are better than others. He met her eyes. She's been asking about you. Clara's heart skipped. What? Emma. She remembers you from when you were my assistant. You always remembered her birthday. Sent her a card last year with a unicorn sticker. He smiled. She asked why Miss Clara doesn't call anymore. What did you tell her? That Miss Clara got promoted and is very busy being brilliant. Damien paused. I didn't tell her about us. Not yet. I wanted to make sure you were comfortable with that first. Clara appreciated that more than she could say. When were you thinking? There's no rush. Emma's my priority always. I won't bring someone into her life unless I'm sure they're staying. He took Clara's hand across the island. But I'm sure about you, so whenever you're ready. I'm terrified, Clara admitted. What if she hates me? She won't. You don't know that. I do, actually, because you're kind and funny and you remember unicorn stickers. That's basically Emma's entire criteria for good humans. Damien squeezed her hand. But we can wait, as long as you need. They finished dinner and Clara helped clean up, which mostly involved Damien trying to wash dishes while she distracted him with kisses. Eventually, they gave up on being productive and moved to the couch. Ready to meet my mom? Clara asked. Is this a test? Absolutely. What happens if I fail? Then you're dating someone whose mother doesn't approve, which will make family dinners extremely awkward. No pressure then. But he was smiling. They took a car to the hospital because Clara's mother was still being monitored between treatments. She was sitting up in bed when they arrived, wearing a robe Clara had bought her and looking tired but alert. Mom, this is Damien. Damien, this is my mom, Susan. Mrs. Bennett. Damien shook her hand gently. It's an honor to meet you. Call me Susan. Mrs. Bennett was my mother-in-law and she was a nightmare. Susan's eyes were sharp as she studied him. So you're the billionaire who's been making my daughter smile. I'm trying to be. Good answer. Sit down. Both of you. Let's talk. What followed was the most excruciating 45 minutes of Clara's life. Her mother asked Damien everything. His intentions, his past, his plans for the future, how he balanced work and fatherhood, what he saw in Clara. She's brilliant, Damien said to that last one. The smartest person I've ever met, and kind in a way that's rare in my world. She makes me want to be better than I am. Susan studied him for a long moment. You hurt her? I'll find a way to hurt you back. Cancer or no cancer? Mom! What? I'm just being clear. But Susan was smiling now. He can take it, can't you? Absolutely, Damien said. And for the record, I have no intention of hurting her. But if I do, you have my permission to make me regret it. I like him, Susan announced to Clara. He's got a spine, that's important. They talked for another hour before a nurse came in and gently suggested Susan should rest. Clara kissed her mother goodbye and promised to visit again on Sunday. In the car on the way back to Clara's apartment, Damien was quiet. You okay? Clara asked. Your mom's incredible. She liked you. That doesn't happen often. I was terrified she'd hate me. Clara laughed. Welcome to my world. I'm terrified Emma will hate me. She won't. He pulled her closer. But I understand the fear. They sat in comfortable silence for a few blocks before Clara spoke again. I think I'm ready. Ready for what? To meet Emma. If you think she's ready to meet me. Damien turned to look at her. You're sure? No. but I don't think I'll ever be completely sure. So maybe we just do it anyway and hope for the best. He kissed her temple. She's coming home Saturday. Want to come for breakfast? I was planning to make pancakes. You're obsessed with pancakes. They're a solid foundational food. He was grinning now. Is that a yes? Clara took a deep breath. Yes. Saturday morning arrived too fast. Clara stood outside Damien's building at 8 a.m., holding a stuffed octopus she'd spent an embarrassing amount of time picking out, wondering if this was the worst idea she'd ever had. Her phone buzzed. You can still back out if you need to. She looked up. Damien was standing in the window of his penthouse, phone to his ear, watching her. Clara hit call. I'm not backing out. Good, because Emma's been bouncing off the walls since I told her Miss Clara was coming for pancakes. What if she doesn't like me in person? Then we'll deal with it, together. His voice was steady, confident. Come up, Clara. I promise it'll be okay. She took the elevator to the top floor, the stuffed octopus tucked under her arm. Damien was waiting at the door. Deep breath, he said. I'm fine. You're shaking. I'm fine and shaking. Clara managed to smile. Where is she? Living room. Building another fort. He took her hand. Ready? No. Yes. Emma Vale was 7 years old with her father's blue eyes and dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail. She looked up when they walked in, and her face split into a huge grin. Miss Clara! Daddy said you were coming, but I didn't believe him because grown-ups lie sometimes, but not about pancakes. Clara laughed, the tension in her chest easing slightly. Hi, Emma. I brought you something. She held out the octopus. Emma's eyes went huge. An octopus. Octopi have 3 hearts and blue blood, and they're super smart. She hugged the stuffed animal. What's its name? I don't know. I thought maybe you should name it. Emma considered this very seriously. Dr. Tentacles, because I'm going to be a marine biologist, and he can be my assistant. Perfect name. Clara glanced at Damien, who was watching them with an expression she couldn't quite read. Can Miss Clara help with the fort? Emma asked. If she wants to. I definitely want to, Clara said. She spent the next hour building a blanket fort with a 7-year-old who had very specific engineering requirements and strong opinions about pillow placement. Damien made pancakes and brought them plates they ate inside the fort because Emma declared it was way more fun. Do you like my daddy? Emma asked suddenly, through a mouthful of pancake. Clara nearly choked on her orange juice. Yes, I do. Good. He needs someone to like him because he's lonely sometimes, I can tell. Emma said it matter-of-factly, like she was discussing the weather. Are you going to be his girlfriend? Clara looked at Damien, who had frozen with his fork halfway to his mouth. Would that be okay with you? Clara asked carefully. If I was. Emma thought about it. Will you still remember my birthday? Always. And you'll still send unicorn stickers? As many as you want. Okay then, you can be his girlfriend. Emma took another bite of pancake. But no kissing at the table. That's gross. Damien laughed so hard he had to put his plate down. Clara felt something in her chest relax fully for the first time in weeks. Maybe this could actually work. Maybe they could actually be happy. Maybe, just maybe, she'd found somewhere she belonged. The next 3 months passed in a blur of stolen moments and careful navigation. Clara split her time between proving herself at Vale Industries, visiting her mother whose recovery continued to defy the odds, and building something real with Damien and Emma that felt more like a family every day. It should have been perfect. The problem was Manhattan's elite social circles didn't forgive easily, and they definitely didn't forget. Every charity event, every business dinner, every board meeting became a minefield of whispered conversations and pointed looks. Victoria Chen had gone quiet, which somehow felt more dangerous than her earlier hostility. Clara was reviewing quarterly projections in her office on a gray November afternoon when her phone rang. Unknown number. Clara Bennett? Ms. Bennett? This is Jennifer Walsh from the New York Chronicle. I'm working on a piece about workplace relationships in corporate America, and I'd love to get your perspective on your relationship with Damien Vale. Clara's blood went cold. I don't have any comment. Is it true you were his personal assistant before becoming VP? Some sources suggest the promotion was... Clara hung up. Her hands were shaking. The phone rang again. Different number. She let it go to voicemail, then another call. and another. By the time Damien appeared at her door 20 minutes later, Clara had 7 missed calls from various media outlets and a text from her mother asking if she'd seen the gossip websites. "Don't look at them," Damien said immediately. "Too late." Clara turned her laptop around. The headline screamed, "From secretary to executive, the Damien Vale love story or corporate scandal." The article was brutal. It questioned Clara's qualifications, implied the promotion was payment for services rendered, and included quotes from anonymous Vale Industries employees suggesting Clara had been pursuing Damien for years. There were photos from the gala, from them leaving his building together, from last week when Emma had grabbed Clara's hand while they walked through Central Park. "They brought Emma into this," Clara said, her voice dangerously quiet. "They put a 7-year-old's picture in a gossip piece." "I know. My lawyer's already on it." Damien crossed to her, but Clara stood and moved away. "This is what I was afraid of. This exact scenario." "Clara, everyone's going to think I slept my way into this job. Everything I've built, every success my team has had, it's all going to be overshadowed by this narrative that I'm just the billionaire's girlfriend playing executive. The people who matter know the truth." "Do they?" Clara laughed, but it came out sharp. "Because I just had 3 reporters call me in 20 minutes. How many do you think called my team? How many are sitting outside this building right now waiting for a photo?" Damien's jaw tightened. "I'll handle this." "How? You can't uninvent gossip. You can't take back the fact that I was your assistant and now I'm your girlfriend. And yes, that looks suspicious to everyone who doesn't know the full story." "Then we tell the full story." "What story? That I kissed your poster during a mental breakdown and you caught me? That's so much better." "Clara." Damien reached for her hand, and this time she let him take it. "I know you're scared, but we knew this would happen eventually. We talked about this. Talking about it and living through it are very different things." Claire's eyes were burning, but she refused to cry. "I need to think." "About what?" "About whether this is worth it. Whether we're worth the damage it's doing to both our reputations." Damien went very still. "You're thinking about ending this." "I'm thinking about protecting what I've built, what we've both built." Clara pulled her hand back. "Maybe we moved too fast. Maybe we should have waited longer. We waited 6 weeks. Then 3 more months of being careful and professional and doing everything right. When would have been long enough, Clara? A year? 5 years? Never?" "I don't know." The words came out louder than she intended. "I just know that I can't have people looking at my work and seeing only your girlfriend. I can't have my team questioning whether they got their positions because they're good or because I'm sleeping with the CEO. Is that what this is really about? Or are you looking for an excuse to run because things are getting serious and that terrifies you?" Clara stared at him. "That's not fair, isn't it? The moment things get hard, you want to bail, just like you're so sure I'm going to bail the moment someone more appropriate comes along." "I never said that. You didn't have to. You've been waiting for me to realize you don't fit in my world since the day we met." Damien's voice was hard now, frustrated. "I've told you 100 times that you're brilliant, that you earned everything you have, that I love you. But you don't believe it. You're so convinced you don't deserve to be here that the first time someone agrees with you, you're ready to walk away. I'm trying to be realistic. You're trying to be a coward." The word landed like a slap. Clara felt her face go hot. "Get out of my office. Clara, I said get out." Damien looked at her for a long moment, something like pain crossing his face. Then he turned and left, closing the door quietly behind him. Clara sat down hard in her chair and stared at the article still open on her laptop. The photos of her and Damien looking happy. Emma's smile. The life she'd started to believe might actually be hers. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "There are photographers outside. Want me to call building security?" Clara closed her laptop. She couldn't think here, not with reporters circling and the walls closing in. She left through the service entrance, head down, and took the subway home to Queens. To her tiny studio apartment that suddenly felt safe, because it was hers, and nobody was questioning how she'd gotten it. Her mother called while Clara was sitting on her bed, still in her coat, staring at nothing. "I saw the article," Susan said without preamble. "Of course you did. Everyone's seen it. It's garbage. It's based on facts. I was his assistant. Now I'm his girlfriend and a VP. That progression looks suspicious. Only to people who don't know you." Her mother's voice was firm. Clara, you've worked harder than anyone I know. You earned that promotion. The fact that you also fell in love with your boss doesn't change your qualifications. Everyone thinks it does. Who's everyone? Some reporter looking for clicks? Victoria Chen, who's been trying to get Damien's attention for years? Random internet strangers? Susan paused. Or is this about you? About what you think you deserve? Clara closed her eyes. We had a fight. He called me a coward. Are you being one? Mom, I'm serious. Are you running because things got hard or because you're scared of being happy? I'm not scared of being happy. Yes, you are. You've been scared of it your whole life. Every time something good happens, you wait for it to fall apart. Susan's voice gentled. Baby, you're allowed to have good things. You're allowed to be successful and in love and happy. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. What if I lose everything? What if you don't? What if you fight for it instead? Her mother sighed. I'm going to tell you something I should have said a long time ago. When your father left, I convinced myself I was better off alone. That love wasn't worth the risk of being hurt again. I spent 20 years protecting myself from disappointment. You know what I got? 20 years of being safe and lonely. Don't make my mistakes, Clara. They talked for another hour before hanging up. Clara sat in her apartment until the sun set and the city lights came on, thinking about everything her mother had said. Her phone buzzed. Not Damien. Patricia. Mr. Vale is in his office, refusing to leave or speak to anyone. Thought you should know. Clara stared at the message. She could ignore it. Go to bed. Deal with everything tomorrow. Instead, she got up, put her coat back on, and headed to the subway. Vale Industries was dark except for the executive floor. Clara used her key card and took the elevator up, her heart hammering. Damien's office light was on. He was sitting at his desk, still in his suit, staring at his computer screen with an expression that made Clara's chest ache. She knocked softly on the doorframe. Damien looked up, surprise, and something else flickering across his face. Clara. Patricia tattled. I'll fire her. No, you won't. She's the only person keeping you functional. Clara stepped into the office. Can we talk? I thought you wanted me to leave you alone. I wanted space to think. Clara moved closer. I'm done thinking. And you were right. I was being a coward. The admission hurt but felt necessary. I was looking for an excuse to run before you could leave first. Damien leaned back in his chair. I'm not leaving. I know. Logically, I know that. But there's this voice in my head that keeps saying I'm not enough. That eventually you'll wake up and realize you could have anyone. Why would you choose me? Because I don't want anyone else. I want you. He stood and crossed to her. Clara, I've had anyone. I've dated models and socialites and women who looked perfect on paper. You know what they all had in common? None of them were you. None of them made me laugh. None of them called me out when I was being an ass. None of them made me want to be better. I'm terrified, Clara whispered. So am I. He took her hands. I'm terrified I'm going to screw this up, that I'm going to prioritize work over you, and you'll realize you deserve better. That Emma will get hurt if this doesn't work out. I'm terrified every single day. Then why are we doing this? Because I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you. Damien pulled her closer. And because when I imagine my future, you're in it. You and Emma eating pancakes in blanket forts. You arguing with me about terrible movies. You beside me at business dinners, making everything bearable. That's what I want. Not some sanitized version that looks good in photographs. You, exactly as you are. Clara's eyes were wet. The article said terrible things. The article is wrong, and my lawyer's making sure they print a retraction. He wiped a tear off her cheek. But even if they don't, even if people talk, I don't care. Let them. We know the truth. What if it hurts your company? Then we'll deal with it together. Damien rested his forehead against hers. I'm not sacrificing you to protect my reputation. That's not who I want to be. Clara kissed him, soft and desperate, and full of everything she couldn't say out loud. He kissed her back like he'd been waiting for permission. When they finally broke apart, Clara said, I love you. I should have said it before. I love you, and it terrifies me, but I love you anyway. I love you too, even when you're being a coward. Especially then, apparently. Damien laughed and pulled her close again. They stood there in his office, holding each other while Manhattan glittered outside the windows. I should probably restructure things, Damien said after a while. Make it so you don't report to me even indirectly. Remove any appearance of impropriety. Will that actually help? Maybe. Probably not. But it's the right thing to do. He pulled back to look at her. I'm not asking you to quit. Your career matters. I know that. I know you know. I'm sorry I implied otherwise. We're going to fight sometimes. That's normal. I'm not good at fighting. Neither am I. We'll figure it out together. They went back to his penthouse because neither of them wanted to be alone. Emma was at a friend's house for a sleepover, so they had the place to themselves. They ordered takeout and sat on the couch and talked through everything properly this time, without anger or fear getting in the way. We need ground rules, Clara said, for when things get hard again. Because they will. Agreed. No walking away without talking first? No calling each other cowards even if it's technically accurate? Damien smiled. Deal. What else? We protect Emma. Whatever happens between us, she doesn't get hurt. Absolutely. His expression turned serious. Clara, if this doesn't work out, don't. I have to say it. If this doesn't work out, I need you to know that Emma's already attached to you. She asks about you every day, wants to know when Miss Clara is coming over. If we end, it's not just me you're leaving. Clara's throat tightened. I know. That scares me too. So we make sure we don't end. He said it simply, like commitment was that easy. We fight for this. We do the work. We don't give up when things get complicated. Okay. Okay? Yeah, let's do the work. Clara curled against him. Fair warning, though, I'm probably going to freak out again at some point. And I'm probably going to say something stupid and insensitive. We're human. We're allowed to mess up as long as we fix it. They fell asleep on the couch, tangled together, takeout containers forgotten on the coffee table. Clara woke up at 3 a.m. to her phone ringing. Unknown number again. She declined it and saw 17 new missed calls. Another reporter? Damien's voice was rough with sleep. Probably. Clara scrolled through her notifications. This is going to keep happening, isn't it? For a while. Then they'll find someone else to harass. He sat up and pulled her with him. We could make a statement, get ahead of it. Saying what? That we're together. That your promotion was merit-based and approved by the board before we started dating. That we expect privacy. Damien ran a hand through his hair. It won't stop the gossip completely, but it might slow it down. Clara thought about it. About hiding versus standing up and claiming what they had. Okay, let's do it. The statement went out the next morning through Vail Industries' PR team. It was brief and professional and confirmed what everyone already suspected. The internet predictably lost its mind. But something unexpected happened too. Support started trickling in. Junior employees who'd worked with Clara sent messages saying she was the best boss they'd ever had. Clients praised her strategic thinking. Even a few board members made statements backing her promotion as purely professional. Looks like you have fans, Damien said, showing her his phone where her team had posted a group photo with the caption, Best VP ever. Earned, not given. Clara's eyes got wet. Marcus organized this, didn't he? Probably. He's protective of you. I need to give him a raise. Done. The media attention didn't disappear, but it shifted. Instead of questioning Clara's qualifications, articles started focusing on the love story angle, the assistant who caught the billionaire's eye, the single father who found love again. It was still invasive and annoying, but at least it wasn't cruel. 2 weeks later, Clara was working late when Victoria Chen appeared in her doorway. Can we talk? Clara gestured to the chair across from her desk. Sure. Victoria sat down, looking uncomfortable. I owe you an apology. That was not what Clara had expected. Okay. I've been horrible to you. The comments, the implications, all of it. Victoria met her eyes. I was jealous. I've been trying to get Damien's attention for 3 years and he barely noticed I existed. Then you show up and suddenly he's different, lighter, happy. Victoria. Let me finish. I convinced myself you'd slept your way into the promotion because it was easier than admitting you're just better at the job than I am. Victoria's voice was quiet now. I've seen your work. The Henderson merger, the department restructure, all of it. You're brilliant. You earned everything you have. Clara didn't know what to say. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Victoria continued. I just wanted you to know I was wrong, and I told the Chronicle reporter that. It's on record now. She stood to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, I hope it works out with you two. He looks at you like you're the only person in the room. That's rare. Victoria left before Clara could respond. Clara sat there for a long moment, processing what had just happened. Her phone buzzed. Damien. Dinner at home? Emma wants to show you her science project. What kind of science project? Something involving slime and glitter. The kitchen is a disaster. Be there in 20. Clara packed up her things and headed out, ignoring the few remaining photographers who'd learned her schedule. She stopped at a bodega to grab flowers for Emma's project and chocolate for Damien because he'd been stress-eating since the media circus started. The penthouse was exactly the disaster Damien had described. Emma had glitter in her hair and slime on her shirt, and the biggest smile Clara had ever seen. Miss Clara, look what I made! She held up something that might have been a model of a cell or possibly an octopus. Clara honestly couldn't tell. It's amazing. What is it? A jellyfish. See, this is the bell, and these are the tentacles, and the glitter is bioluminescence. That's so cool. Clara crouched down to Emma's level. Can you tell me more about bioluminescence? Emma launched into an explanation that was surprisingly detailed for a 7-year-old. Damien watched them from the kitchen, wearing an apron that said Dad Joke Loading, and looking at Clara like she'd hung the moon. They had dinner in the chaos of Emma's science project, ordered pizza because nobody felt like cooking, and watched a documentary about octopi because Emma had declared it research for Dr. Tentacles. After Emma went to bed, Clara and Damien cleaned up the kitchen together. She really loves you, Damien said, scraping glitter off the counter. I really love her. Clara smiled. She's incredible. You did good. We did good. Her mom would be proud of who she's becoming. He said it without sadness, just simple truth. I think she'd like you too. Clara looked at him. You never talk about her. Sarah? There's not much to say that people don't already know from articles. Damien was quiet for a moment. We were young when we met, both building our careers, both ambitious. We had a good marriage, but it wasn't this grand love story everyone wants it to be. We were partners, friends, parents to Emma. Do you miss her? Sometimes. Mostly, I miss having someone to share the parenting with. Someone who understood Emma the way I do. He turned to face Clara fully. But I don't miss being in love, because what I feel for you is completely different, bigger, scarier, more real. Clara set down the dish she was holding and kissed him. I'm glad I kissed your poster. Me too. Best malfunction of office equipment ever. It wasn't equipment, it was a poster. Semantics. They finished cleaning and migrated to the couch, where they'd spent so many evenings over the past months. Clara curled against Damien's side, feeling settled in a way she never had before. Can I ask you something? Damien said. Always. Move in with me. Clara sat up. What? Move in. You and your mom if she needs care. Or just you if she's doing well enough to stay in her place. But either way, I want you here. Every morning, every night. Not just the evenings when we can coordinate schedules. Damien, that's huge. I know, and if it's too fast, we can wait, but Clara, I'm 32 years old and I've already wasted 2 years not being with you. I don't want to waste any more time. Clara thought about her studio apartment in Queens, about the subway rides and the distance and coming home to an empty space every night. Then she thought about mornings with Emma and Damien, about blanket forts and terrible movies, and being part of something bigger than herself. Okay. Okay? Yeah, let's do it, Clara smiled. But I'm keeping my apartment for a while, just in case. Just in case what? Just in case you realize you hate living with me and my terrible morning hair and the fact that I steal covers. Damien pulled her back against him. I already know about the cover stealing. You fell asleep here last week, remember? And you're still asking me to move in? I'm a risk taker. It's how I made my fortune. Clara laughed and kissed him, and thought about how far they'd come from that night in the lobby. From a poster kiss and a fainting spell, to this, to home. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. Saw the statement. Proud of you for fighting for what you want. Love you, Clara Bear. Clara showed Damien the message. Your mom's the best, he said. She really is. She wants to meet Emma. We should set that up. Maybe Sunday brunch? You're really going all in on this. Absolutely. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. Damien kissed the top of her head. No more hiding, no more doubting, just us figuring it out together. Together, Clara echoed, and let herself believe it might actually work. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of logistics and emotions. Clara started moving her things into the penthouse slowly, box by box, while Emma supervised and had opinions about where everything should go. Miss Clara's books should go next to Daddy's because then they can be friends, Emma declared, arranging Clara's architecture textbooks next to Damien's business books with great seriousness. Her mother met Emma on a Sunday that felt like the collision of Clara's two worlds. She'd been terrified they wouldn't get along, but within 5 minutes, Susan and Emma were conspiring about something involving sparkles and Clara's upcoming birthday. Your mom's cool, Emma told Clara later. She knows all the good swear words. Emma. What? She said she'd teach me when I'm older. That's responsible. Damien just laughed and pulled Clara into his arms. Welcome to my world, where 7-year-olds negotiate future swearing privileges. Work settled into a new rhythm, too. The reorganization meant Clara now reported to the CFO instead of Damien, which helped quiet some of the gossip. Her team continued to excel, the Henderson merger closed successfully, and she started getting headhunted by other companies impressed with her track record. You should take the Goldman offer, Damien said one night after she'd mentioned it. Clara stared at him. What? The VP position at Goldman. It's a good opportunity. Better title, more money, complete separation from any appearance of impropriety with us. I don't want to leave Vail Industries. Why not? Because of me? Partially, yes, but also because I like my team. I like what we're building. I'm not running away just to make other people comfortable. Damien smiled. Good answer. Was that a test? Maybe. I wanted to make sure you were staying for the right reasons. You're insufferable. You love me anyway. Unfortunately. But she was smiling when she said it. The first real test of living together came on a random Tuesday when everything went wrong simultaneously. Emma got sent home from school with a fever. Clara's biggest client threatened to pull their account over a misunderstanding. Damien had an emergency board meeting that ran until midnight, and the dishwasher broke, flooding half the kitchen. Clara sat on the kitchen floor at 1 a.m., surrounded by wet towels, while Emma slept fitfully in her room and Damien was still at the office. Her phone rang. Damien. How bad is it? He asked. On a scale of 1 to 10? 15? Clara laughed tiredly. Emma's fever broke an hour ago. The client is just being dramatic. I'll fix it tomorrow. The kitchen is a swamp. I'm sorry I'm not there. You're running a company. It's fine. It's not fine. You're dealing with everything alone. Welcome to partnership. Sometimes one person carries more. Tomorrow you'll carry more and I'll lean on you. That's how this works. Clara leaned back against the cabinet. Just come home when you can. We'll figure out the rest. When Damien finally got home at 2 a.m., Clara had cleaned up the kitchen and fallen asleep on the couch. He carried her to bed without waking her, and in the morning, everything felt manageable again. We survived our first domestic crisis, Clara said over coffee. First of many, probably. Probably. But we're still here. Still here, Damien agreed and kissed her like it was a promise. That night, Clara got home from work to find Damien and Emma setting up something in the living room. What's going on? Family meeting, Emma announced solemnly. Daddy says we need to talk about important things. Clara looked at Damien, who just smiled and gestured for her to sit down. Once they were all seated, Emma pulled out a piece of paper covered in her handwriting and some drawings that might have been flowers or possibly explosions. We made a list, Emma said, of rules for our family. What kind of rules? Clara asked. Important ones, like Daddy has to stop checking his phone at dinner, and you have to stop worrying about everything all the time, and I have to clean my room at least once a week. At least once a week is generous, Damien muttered. Emma ignored him. And we all have to say one good thing that happened every day at dinner, even if the day was bad. Clara's throat got tight. I love that rule. And one more. Emma looked between them seriously. You guys can't break up because you make each other happy and you make me happy, and that's the most important thing. Emma, Damien started. I know grown-ups can't promise forever, Emma interrupted. But you can promise to try really hard, right? Clara looked at this 7-year-old who'd somehow become hers and felt her heart crack open. We promise to try really hard. Really, really hard, Damien added, taking Clara's hand. Okay, good. Emma seemed satisfied. Now, can we have ice cream? Family meetings should have ice cream. They had ice cream and talked about their days, and Clara thought about how this had become her life. This chaotic, messy, beautiful thing that she'd never planned for but couldn't imagine living without. Later, after Emma was in bed, Damien pulled Clara onto the balcony. Manhattan spread out below them, endless and glittering. That was her idea, he said. The family meeting. She's been planning it for weeks. She's incredible. She is, and she's terrified we're going to break up because every family she knows at school is divorced or separated. Damien pulled Clara closer. I told her you're not going anywhere. Was I right to promise that? Clara thought about everything that had happened. The poster kiss, the fights, the media circus, the daily choice to stay and build something real. Yeah, she said. You were right. 6 months after Clara moved in, she woke up to Emma jumping on the bed at 6 a.m. Miss Clara. Miss Clara. It's Saturday and Daddy said we can make waffles and go to the aquarium and I get to show you the jellyfish exhibit. Clara groaned and pulled a pillow over her face. Damien, already awake because the man was apparently part robot, laughed from the doorway. Emma, we talked about this. Saturday is Miss Clara's sleep-in day. But the aquarium opens at 9 and we need to get there early before all the good kids take the interactive touch tanks. There are no good kids, Clara mumbled into her pillow. They're all equally terrible at hogging touch tanks. Emma giggled and flopped down next to Clara. You're funny when you're sleepy. I'm hilarious. Now go away for 30 more minutes. 20 minutes? 25. Deal! Emma scrambled off the bed and ran out, presumably to destroy the kitchen in preparation for waffles. Damien sat on the edge of the bed. Sorry, I told her to wait until 7. It's fine. I love her enthusiasm even when it's assaulting my Saturday morning. Clara sat up, her hair doing something gravity-defying. Aquarium, huh? She's been planning this all week. Apparently there's a new exhibit about deep-sea creatures and she needs to take notes for a school project. She's 7. What kind of school assigns projects that need aquarium research? The expensive kind we're paying too much for. Damien leaned over and kissed her. Morning? Morning yourself. Clara stretched. I should probably look human before we go anywhere public. You look perfect. I look like I stuck my finger in an electrical socket. Perfect, Damien repeated, grinning. The aquarium was packed with kids and stressed parents and Emma in full marine biologist mode. She dragged Clara from exhibit to exhibit, explaining the difference between cephalopods and cyanidarians with the kind of passion usually reserved for people who'd spent decades studying marine biology, not second graders who'd read a lot of library books. Did you know octopi can change color in less than a second? Emma said, pressed against the glass of the octopus tank. And they have 3 hearts and blue blood, and they're really smart, like smarter than most people. Smarter than me, definitely, Clara agreed. Not smarter than you. You're the smartest person I know, except maybe Daddy, and he doesn't count because he's old. I'm 32, Damien protested from where he was taking photos of them. Old, Emma and Clara said together, then dissolved into giggles. They spent 4 hours at the aquarium before Emma finally ran out of energy. On the cab ride home, she fell asleep against Clara's shoulder, her notebook full of jellyfish drawings clutched in her hand. She's exhausted, Clara said softly. She always crashes hard after the aquarium. Too much excitement. Damien was watching them with that expression he got sometimes, the one that made Clara's chest tight. You're good with her. She makes it easy. No, you make it look easy. There's a difference. He took Clara's free hand. I never thought I'd find this again. This whole family thing. I'd resigned myself to it being just me and Emma. And now you're stuck with me too. Best decision I ever made. Well, second best. First was Emma. You're a close second. I'll take it. That night, after Emma was in bed and they'd cleaned up the disaster zone that happened whenever a 7-year-old tried to cook, Clara's phone rang. Her mother. Hey, Mom, how was your day? Good. Better than good, actually. I got the results from my latest scan. Clara's stomach dropped. And? Still in remission. Dr. Martinez says if we make it to the 1-year mark with clean scans, we can start talking about me being cancer-free. Clara sat down hard on the couch. Mom, that's incredible. It is. And Clara, I've been thinking, I want to sell the house. What? Why? Because it's too big for just me and it has too many memories of being sick. I want something smaller. Maybe one of those new condos near the park. Something with an elevator so when I'm old and decrepit, I don't have to climb stairs. You're not old and decrepit. Not yet. But I'm planning ahead. Susan's voice was light, happy in a way Clara hadn't heard in years. And I was thinking, with the money from the house, maybe I could help you with something. Mom, you don't need to... Hear me out. You mentioned once that you wanted to finish your architecture degree. What if you did that? Not full-time, just a class or two. Finish what you started. Clara felt her eyes burn. I don't have time for school. I have work and Emma and a billionaire boyfriend who owns a company and can give you flexible hours. And a mother who wants to see her daughter chase a dream before it's too late. Susan paused. You've spent 2 years taking care of me. Let me take care of you for once. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it. That's all I'm asking. They talked for a while longer before hanging up. Clara sat on the couch, staring at nothing, until Damien found her. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's right, and it's weird. Clara looked up at him. My mom's still in remission. She wants to sell the house, and she thinks I should go back to school. For architecture? Yeah, which is insane because I don't have time and I'm 30 years old and it's something you want. Damien sat next to her. Clara, we talked about this. If it's something you want, we'll make it work. It would mean less time at Vail Industries, less availability for projects. So promote someone to take some of your workload. Delegate. That's what good executives do. He took her hand. You've spent your whole life putting everyone else first. Your mom, your job, me, and Emma. When do you get to do something just for you? Clara leaned against him. It feels selfish. It's not. It's human. Damien kissed the top of her head. Take one class. See how it feels. If you hate it, you stop. If you love it, we figure out how to make it sustainable. But at least try. So Clara tried. She enrolled in a single architecture course at Columbia for the spring semester, a night class on sustainable design that met twice a week. The first day, she showed up feeling ancient compared to the 22-year-olds around her. Then the professor started talking about building spaces that honored both function and beauty, about creating structures that made people feel something, and Clara remembered why she'd fallen in love with this in the first place. She came home at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday, her mind buzzing with ideas, to find Damien waiting up. How was it? Amazing, terrible. I'm the oldest person in the class and I'd forgotten how much I don't know, but also it was perfect. Clara dropped her bag and kissed him. Thank you for pushing me to do this. Thank you for letting me be part of your life. Sap. You love it. She did. She really did. The months that followed found a rhythm that shouldn't have worked, but somehow did. Clara juggled her VP responsibilities with night classes, Emma's school events with client meetings, family dinners with project deadlines. Some days she felt like she was drowning. Other days she felt like she could conquer the world. Damien was there for all of it. The late nights when she cursed architectural drafting, the small victories when a design finally clicked, the moments when she wondered what she'd been thinking, trying to do everything at once. You're allowed to struggle, he told her one particularly rough Thursday when she'd missed Emma's school play rehearsal because of an emergency client meeting. You're allowed to mess up. That's part of being human. I hate messing up. I know. But Emma's not mad. I recorded the whole rehearsal on my phone and she performed it again just for you when we got home. Claire's eyes filled. She did? Complete with costume changes and improvised songs. It was a whole production. Damien pulled her close. You're doing great. Not perfect, but great. And that's more than enough. It was a Friday in late April when everything shifted again. Clara was in her office reviewing designs for her semester final project when Victoria Chen knocked on her door. Got a minute? Sure. Clara gestured to the chair. They'd developed an odd friendship over the past year, built on mutual respect and Victoria's dry humor about Manhattan's social scene. I'm leaving Vale Industries. Clara looked up sharply. What? Why? Because I got offered the CFO position at Preston Holdings, and it's too good to pass up. Victoria smiled. Also because working here while watching you and Damien be disgustingly happy is exhausting. We're not that bad. You are. It's fine. It's actually kind of nice knowing that kind of thing exists. Victoria pulled out an envelope. I wanted to give you this before I tell anyone else. Clara opened it. A letter of recommendation, glowing and specific, detailing every success Clara had achieved. Victoria, Don't. I was terrible to you. This is the least I can do. She stood. For what it's worth, you've made me reconsider some things. About what matters. About building a life versus building a resume. Are you getting philosophical on me? Maybe. Don't tell anyone. It'll ruin my reputation. Victoria headed for the door, then turned back. He's lucky to have you. You both are. Don't forget that on the days when it feels hard. After she left, Clara sat with the letter for a long time, thinking about how far they'd all come, how people changed, how grace worked. That night at dinner, Emma made her announcement. I need to talk to you guys about something serious. Damien and Clara exchanged glances. Emma's serious talks usually involved elaborate requests for pets or later bedtimes. Okay, Damien said carefully. What's up? I think it's weird that Miss Clara still has the miss part. Emma pushed her broccoli around her plate. Like, she lives here and she's basically my mom, and everyone at school asks why I call her Miss Clara instead of just Clara or Mom. Clara's heart stopped. She looked at Damien, who looked as surprised as she felt. Emma, Clara started. I'm not saying you have to be called Mom if you don't want to, Emma continued quickly. But maybe just Clara? Without the miss? Because we're family, and family doesn't need the miss part. Clara had to set her fork down because her hands were shaking. Emma, I would love it if you called me just Clara. Really? Really? Cool. Emma went back to eating like she hadn't just fundamentally changed their relationship with a single dinner conversation. Later, when Emma was in bed, Damien found Clara on the balcony. You okay? She called me basically her mom. Clara's voice cracked. Damien, she thinks of me as her mom. Of course she does. You've been here every day for almost a year. You help with homework and school projects and bad days. You're at every doctor's appointment and parent-teacher conference. What else would you be? I'm not trying to replace her actual mom. You're not. Sarah will always be her mother. But Clara? He turned her to face him. You're her mom, too. That's allowed. Love doesn't have a capacity limit. Clara kissed him, tasting salt from tears she hadn't realized were falling. I love you both so much it scares me. Good. I'd be worried if you weren't a little scared. Damien pulled back, his expression shifting to something nervous. Speaking of scary things. Oh no, what did you do? Nothing bad. At least I hope it's not bad. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Clara stopped breathing. I had this whole plan, Damien said, talking fast. I was going to take you to the diner, propose where we had our first real date, make it perfect and romantic, and all the things you deserve. But then Emma called you basically her mom, and you cried. And I realized I don't want to wait anymore. He opened the box. The ring was simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught the city lights. Clara Rosemary Bennett, you kissed my poster during a mental breakdown, and somehow that was the best thing that ever happened to me. You challenge me and frustrate me and make me laugh and make me want to be better. You love my daughter like she's yours. You've built a life with us that I never thought I'd get to have again. He took a shaky breath. Marry me. Not because it makes sense or looks good or fits some narrative. Marry me because you love us and we love you, and that's all that matters. Clara was fully crying now, not even trying to stop. You planned to propose at the diner. I did. That's so stupid. I know. I love it. She laughed through the tears. Yes. Obviously, yes. Damien slid the ring on her finger with shaking hands, then kissed her like they hadn't just gotten engaged on a random Friday night on their balcony wearing sweatpants. Should we tell Emma? Clara asked when they finally broke apart. Probably. She'll be furious if we wait. They woke Emma up, breaking their own rule about bedtime being sacred. She took one look at Clara's hand and screamed loud enough to wake the entire building. "You're getting married! You're going to be my actual real mom!" "I'm going to be your actual real stepmom," Clara corrected gently. "Same thing. Can I be the flower girl? Can I wear a fancy dress? Can Dr. Tentacles come to the wedding?" Yes, and we'll discuss the octopus later. Damien was laughing, trying to contain Emma's excitement and failing completely. They ended up having an impromptu celebration at midnight, eating ice cream straight from the container, while Emma planned an elaborate wedding that involved underwater themes and at least 17 flower girls. 17 seems excessive, Clara said. Fine, 12. But they all have to wear jellyfish costumes. Absolutely not. You're no fun. I'm tons of fun. I'm just not having 12 children dressed as jellyfish at my wedding. Damien watched them negotiate, his expression soft. I could watch this forever. Good, Clara said, reaching for his hand. Because you're stuck with us now. The wedding planning turned out to be exactly as chaotic as expected. Emma had opinions about everything. Susan cried at every decision. Damien's mother, who Clara had met twice and who was lovely but intense, kept suggesting venues that cost more than most people's houses. We could just elope, Clara suggested one particularly frustrating afternoon when they'd spent 3 hours looking at centerpieces. Emma would never forgive us, Damien said. True, she's already designed her flower girl dress, in jellyfish format. Did you agree to that? I agreed to jellyfish colors, not actual jellyfish shapes. They compromised on a small wedding at the Botanical Gardens in June, immediate family only, with Emma as the flower girl wearing a blue dress that was only moderately ocean-themed. Clara's architecture class project was due the same week, because apparently she enjoyed making her life complicated. I could postpone this wedding, Damien offered when he found her having a minor breakdown over drafting software at 2 a.m. Don't you dare, I can handle both. You don't have to handle everything alone. I know, but I want to finish this. I need to prove to myself I can do it. He kissed her forehead. You're going to be amazing. At both. The final project presentation was 2 days before the wedding. Clara stood in front of her class and presented her design for a community center in Queens, built on sustainable principles, with spaces meant to bring people together. Her professor called it mature work from someone who understands that architecture is about people, not just buildings. She got an A. She also got a job offer from one of her classmates' mothers, who ran a sustainable architecture firm, and was looking for someone with Clara's unique blend of business sense and design thinking. You don't have to decide now, the woman said, handing Clara her card. But think about it. We could use someone like you. Clara told Damien about it that night while they were supposed to be finalizing wedding details, but were actually watching terrible sci-fi movies. Are you going to take it? I don't know. I love Vail Industries, my team, what we've built. But I also love architecture. I love designing spaces. And this would let me do both. Consult part-time while building something new. Damien was quiet for a moment. What if you started your own firm? Clara looked at him. What? You have the degree now. Well, almost. You have the business experience, the connections, the vision. He turned to face her fully. What if you built something that was entirely yours? That's insane. Is it? You've been managing other people's visions for years. What if you managed your own? Clara thought about it, about designing buildings that mattered, about being her own boss, about the terror and freedom of that. I'd need capital, clients, a reputation. You'd need support, which you have. Damien took her hand. I'm not saying do it tomorrow. I'm saying think about it. Consider that you're allowed to want something big for yourself. She kissed him. You're dangerous. You make me believe things are possible. They are possible. You just have to be brave enough to try. The wedding was small and perfect, and nothing like the elaborate affairs Manhattan's elite expected from Damien Vail. They said their vows under a canopy of flowers, while Emma cried happy tears, and Susan made sarcastic comments about the officiant's voice. Damien's mother actually smiled, which everyone agreed was basically a miracle. I take you, Clara Rosemary Bennett, Damien said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes, to be my wife, my partner, the person who makes me laugh and challenges me and loves my daughter like her own. I promise to support your dreams, even the scary ones. I promise to be honest when it's hard. I promise to try really, really hard every single day. Clara's vows were shorter because she was crying too hard to get through the elaborate speech she'd prepared. I take you, Damien Vale. I promise to keep calling you out when you're being an ass. I promise to love Emma with everything I have. I promise to be brave when it counts. And I promise that this is real and forever and I'm not running anywhere. When they kissed, Emma cheered so loud several people jumped. The reception was in Damien's penthouse, which they decorated with Emma's help. There were exactly 0 jellyfish, but there were flowers everywhere and terrible music and dancing that would never make it to social media because they'd banned phones. "Mrs. Vale," Damien said, pulling Clara close for a slow dance. "That's going to take getting used to. You could keep Bennett." "I could, but I like the sound of Clara Vale." She smiled. "It sounds like someone who knows what she wants." "And what do you want?" Clara looked around at their chosen family. Emma teaching Susan some complicated dance move. Patricia actually laughing at something Damien's mother said. Marcus and the rest of her team arguing about sports in the corner. This life they'd built from a poster kiss and a lot of courage. "This," she said simply, "all of this." 3 months after the wedding, Clara officially left Vale Industries to start her own firm. Bennett Vale Architecture, specializing in sustainable community spaces. Damien invested, but she insisted on being the majority owner. Her first project was a community center in Queens, not far from where she'd grown up. Emma started 3rd grade and announced she wanted to be an architect now instead of a marine biologist. "Or maybe both," she said seriously. "I can decide later." Susan moved into her condo and started volunteering at the hospital, talking to newly diagnosed cancer patients about hope and survival. She hit the 1-year remission mark in October and cried for an hour straight. Victoria sent a Christmas card from Preston Holdings with a photo of her and her new girlfriend, a lawyer who apparently made terrible puns and didn't care about money. The poster that started everything still hung in Vale Industries' lobby. Damien refused to take it down despite Clara's protests. "It's a piece of history," he insisted. "It's embarrassing. It's proof that sometimes the best things in life come from our worst moments." On their first anniversary, they went back to the diner on 53rd Street. Same booth, same terrible coffee, same pancakes. "Remember when you thought I'd fire you for kissing my poster?" Damien said. "Remember when you were too emotionally constipated to admit you liked me?" "I was not emotionally constipated." "You absolutely were. It took Emma's intervention to get you to propose." "That's not..." "Okay, that's partially true." He reached across the table. "But I got there eventually." "You did. We both did." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the kind that only came from really knowing someone. "Can I tell you something?" Clara said. "Always. I'm happy. Like genuinely, completely happy. And it's weird because I spent so long just trying to survive that I forgot what happy felt like." Damien squeezed her hand. "Me too. I'd resigned myself to just existing, going through the motions. Then you came along and reminded me that life is supposed to feel like something." "We're getting sappy." "We're allowed to be sappy. We're married." "Fair point." They finished their pancakes and walked back to their car, through Manhattan streets that had witnessed their entire story. From the Vale Industries building where Clara had kissed a poster in desperation, to the hospital where her mother had fought for her life, to the penthouse where they'd built a family from broken pieces. "You know what the crazy thing is?" Clara said as they drove home. "If you'd asked me 3 years ago where I thought I'd be, this wouldn't have been it. Not even close. Would you change anything?" Clara thought about it. About the fear and the fights and the moments she'd wanted to run. About the courage it took to stay, to try, to believe she deserved good things. "No," she said finally. "I wouldn't change a single thing, even the parts that hurt, because they all led here." Here was home. Home was Emma running to greet them at the door with paint in her hair from her latest art project. Home was Susan on FaceTime from her condo, showing off her new furniture. Home was Damien pulling Clara close while Emma told them about her day, the 3 of them tangled together on the couch, like they'd always been this way. That night, after Emma was asleep and they were getting ready for bed, Clara caught sight of herself in the mirror. She looked different than the woman who'd worked as Damien's assistant. Happier, more confident. Someone who'd learned that asking for what you wanted wasn't selfish, it was necessary. What are you thinking about? Damien asked, coming up behind her. How far we've come, how lucky we got. Luck had nothing to do with it. You were brave. You kissed the poster. Clara laughed. That was not brave. That was a mental breakdown. Potato, potato. He wrapped his arms around her waist. The point is, you took a chance. On me. On us. On believing this could work. We both took chances. Yeah, we did. He kissed her neck. Best risk I ever took. Even better than cheese cryptocurrency? Infinitely better than cheddar chain. They stood there for a moment, reflected in the mirror, two people who'd found each other in the least likely way possible. Who'd fought for what they had? Who'd learned that perfect was overrated and real was better? Emma asked me something today, Damien said quietly. What? She asked if we were going to have a baby. A brother or sister for her. Clara turned in his arms. What did you tell her? That it was something we'd need to discuss together. That it wasn't just up to me. He paused. What do you think? Clara thought about it, about their already chaotic life, about whether she had room for more, about whether she wanted it. I think, she said slowly, that I'm not sure, but I'm not saying no. Just not yet. Not yet is good. Not yet means maybe later. Maybe later, Clara agreed, when Bennett Vale architecture is more established, when Emma's a little older, when we've been married more than 3 months. So you're saying there's a chance. There's always a chance. That's what you taught me. She kissed him. That taking chances is how you build a life worth living. They went to bed tangled together, talking about possibilities and dreams and the future they were building one day at a time. No guarantees. No perfect plans. Just two people who'd learned that love was less about finding someone who completed you and more about finding someone who inspired you to complete yourself. In the morning, Clara would wake up to Emma jumping on the bed again. She'd drink terrible coffee and review blueprints and argue with Damien about whether their next vacation should involve beaches or museums. She'd call her mother and have lunch with her team and come home to a family that chose each other every single day. But right now, in this moment, she was just Clara. Not the VP, not the architect, not even the wife or stepmother. Just Clara, who'd been brave enough to kiss a poster and fall in love with a billionaire, and believed that she deserved happiness. And that, she thought, as sleep pulled her under, was the real story. Not the poster or the romance or the fairy tale ending. The real story was about a woman who'd spent her whole life putting herself last and finally learned to put herself first. Who'd discovered that being selfish enough to chase your dreams didn't make you a bad person. It made you human. Who'd figured out that the best love stories weren't about finding someone to complete you, but about finding someone who supported you while you completed yourself. The poster still hung in the lobby of Vale Industries. It would hang there for years to come, a reminder to every employee that sometimes the most professional thing you could do was allow yourself to be human, to have bad days, to make mistakes, to fall in love in completely inappropriate circumstances and build something beautiful from the mess. Because that was the thing about life. It didn't wait for you to be ready. It didn't ask permission. It just happened, messy and complicated and perfect in its imperfection. And the only choice you really had was whether to be brave enough to live it. Clara had chosen brave, and every morning when she woke up next to Damien with Emma's laughter echoing through their home, she chose it again. That was enough. That was everything. That was home.